Hey. Oh, got four of us.
Hey, full
Sorry for
screen, full
going
screen.
live a little bit late. We had some technical issues, as always. Thank you, StreamYard.
Cliff had technical issues. It was me.
Welcome to our WTC recap episode. I'm joined by Francois and Nathan. And yeah, we're going to talk about some WTC stuff. Also, I want to hear a clip. I want to hear about your best man duties. Let's leave with you before we leave with anyone else.
Ooh. So I was at a wedding. It was awesome. It was in Boulder. Boulder's beautiful, unusually lush. One of my best friends from middle school / high school. I've known him since we were 12, and I am 40, which is amazing. Got married to a wonderful woman in the mountains in Evergreen, Colorado. And there were no formal best men, but I was one of the people chosen to deliver a groomsman's toast. And that toast covered a wide range of topics, including the White Wolf line of RPGs. If anyone can remember Vampire the Masquerade and or Werewolf the Apocalypse from way back when, super edgy. You play as like vampires and werewolves and mummies and all sorts of scary monsters. The werewolf thing in particular was pretty cool because you're like eco-terrorists, which again came up in the speech.
I love it.
The speech was ridiculous.
I'm just remembering 90s. Like, Cliff, did you have like pants with chains while you were playing White Wolf?
No. That's the whole thing. I was Francois, you're full Jinkos with a big chain.
That was me too, Francois, while playing White Wolf games. Yes.
No, my fashion and appearance have not changed drastically outside of the beard since I was like 16. I'm just the same, just plain color t-shirts and jeans. And so yeah, the wedding was cool. It was our first time away without the kids in like 5 years, which was sick. And that was it. Yeah, I get to watch you guys doing the thing at WTC, which was amazing. God, so cool. Talk about that. Let's talk about that.
No.
Tim,
All right.
WTC goodies. You said no.
Bro, it was awesome. I don't even know where to begin. It was kind of a nice payoff. I guess obviously Anthony and I are good friends. We talked a lot, and a lot of times he would kind of vent to me about his frustration last year, and like I don't want to say it was kind of anyone's fault, but I think it was just it was like Team USA like mindset, and then just expectation management between several different people, and just not quite jiving. And that's where like kind of that joke of like lead singles player in a trench coat came from. And you just kind of really see the importance of like a true team dynamic.
Yeah.
And so being a part of that this year being more open, and there was some drama, which is a completely different topic, and honestly, it's in the past that kind of threatened to derail the whole thing right from the beginning. But then Sean, at great personal sacrifice to himself, came back because he was really the only person with the kind of like gravitas to really, immediately set things on the right path. So it was kind of like break glass in case of the unthinkable. And then we got right to work. We started setting up scrims. We cut from 35 people down to 20, and Sean gave a speech. He said, hey, we're going to be doing tightening cuts, but they're not truly cuts. All 20 of you are part of Team USA, unless like anyone does anything like crazy, like sportsmanship or like, stuff like that. And then we just got to work, and that was really good. The competition was tight. Eventually, I found like my breaking point. I even told my wife, I said, this means a lot to me. This is kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity. It felt like, so I'm going to try to go for it. Just let you know, I'm going to be a little bit like emotionally unavailable and that kind of stuff. I'm always going to be kind of distracted because it's just going to be like in my head for the next like 6 months. And Cindy, which, Nathan, Francois, you guys met, she was like, she's all about it. She, even though she doesn't always get like what I'm doing, she knows, like, she can kind of read me, and like when I'm excited about something or passionate about something, like she understands that. So that was cool. Anyhow, so we get there. I played Warmaster singles. Then I spent a couple days away from the team because we had so many coaches. So I was like, "Hey, you guys, I'll come back to the meetings. I'll come to the meetings every single night and help you guys like do all that kind of stuff." And then I kind of like became more and more present as we got like deeper and deeper to the rounds. And then Sunday I was there all day. And then we came in second. And it was awesome. And Cindy like just was there at the end of the weekend, and she saw like the community, she saw the wholesomeness and all that kind of stuff. And by the time the award ceremony was done, she'd kind of seen the fruition of 6 months of work. She was already talking about Belgium next year, which surprised me. So it was cool.
Sick. Shout out to Sean Aiden, perhaps the pinnacle of Warhammer daddom. And
it was cool. It was cool to see him like go into captain mode, like on like when the boots hit the ground. It was really cool to see that man. That man knows how to give some good speeches.
Nice,
for real.
Nice. And shout out to supportive partners. Good stuff, Cindy. Sad I didn't get to meet her.
Yeah. Francois, tell us. I think Nathan. We'll come back and recap Nathan. He talked about it a little bit on Tuesday. So Nathan will save you for last. From Francois, go ahead and tell us about it from your perspective.
Yeah, that was a surreal week. We've been back 3-4 days now, I think. I don't know. Time has lost all meaning, and my brain is still trying to like fully absorb everything that went down. It was 7 days of pure chaos, but in a good way. I think by far my best Warhammer experience ever. Full like 12 out of 10. Amazing time, amazing crowd. Everyone was so nice. I got to meet so many people that I knew of or knew online or had talked to, and finally got to like meet them in the flesh. It was amazing. It was my first time as a player there, first time there period, but as a player, and it was a lot more than I expected. So I have friends who have gone for years, even, who talk to me about WTC every year, and you hear all the stories and you think to yourself, oh, that sounds really cool, I want to go. But I don't think it's possible to fully internalize how just absolutely amazing but also overwhelming it is until you go. For me, it was almost too much, and I've been, I've played in big games. I've been at top tables at big events. I've played in important, stressful games, and nothing has ever come close to this experience. I don't even think I can like do it justice in words, but it was the best week. And Team Canada was amazing. Shout out to all my teammates. They were great. We had the best dynamic the whole time we were there. Shout out to my wife, who, like Tim's wife, was very supportive throughout the whole ordeal, because this is an incredible time commitment. Prior to WTC, I think I did a Warhammer-related thing, whether like a one-day practice day or like a full weekend GT. I think I worked it out to, in the last 9 weeks, I did 8 Warhammer like weekend things. And that's not possible when you have a family and responsibilities, unless you have a very, very supportive partner. So thanks, Audrey, for like making that possible for me. And we'll unpack all of that in more detail, I'm sure, later. But my main takeaway was just how absolutely overwhelming it turned out to be, but in a very good way.
Nathan, bring it home for us, man.
Oh boy. So I did coverage at the WTC, so I was not a member of a team aside from the collaboration that I did with a Polish podcast, Contact Lost, which is made up of Tomek and Joker, only known as Joker because I can never pronounce his Polish name correctly, and he just kind of gives pity upon me and every other non-Polish person being able to pronounce his name correctly. So I got to work with those two, and then also Typhus and then Nathan Roberts of Team England WTC fame, and we ran essentially like a Game Center-esque news desk situation. I also played in Warmasters, but Warmasters was an abridged experience for a variety of reasons. Mostly because my travel time to the WTC started with like 9 almost 10 hours of travel delays, which took away like the whole let's see Brussels kind of part of my trip. But which was fine though. I have to agree with Francois though. This is like WTC itself is an experience that you kind of need to be there to understand. There's like an energy to it, and then like activity that's going on between people, and then like all the jerseys and all this team stuff and things like that, and all these different experts from different countries interacting with each other in a very different way than they usually do in singles events. And it's kind of interesting. There was a moment that kind of exemplified it at the end when we were all sitting at the bar after everything was done. And it's like Anthony, Vic, Nassim, Innes, David Gaylord, all sitting together, also with Brian Sipe there, all sitting together in like a small space having beers and talking about Warhammer 40K. And it's like, this is like a thing that only happens in this situation.
Yeah, just casually, like 7 of the top 10 ITC players or something.
Yeah, just 7 of the 10 ITC players chatting about like Thousand Suns and why they're funny. So yeah, similar to Francois, I'd give it a 12 out of 10 for the experience. I don't know how much we're going to go into like the ins and outs of it. I will say that aside from the 12 out of 10, I sat behind the desk after we got it set up, like this table, and like stared at a hall, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Sorry, language. But I sat down staring at like, how do you record live content with all these people here? And the answer to that is that your audio isn't always great, but it was a lot of fun. I would do it again. I think I've already been told I'm doing it again by the Stat Check backstage people who are like, yeah, so you're just doing this again. Congratulations. You get to do this all over again next week.
You do have free will. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
I do also want to do it. I think the
there
assumption is that I would want to do it again, but unlike everybody else, I don't have kids or anything. I just have stat children, and they're not the same. My wife is very supportive, although when I came back and I started telling her stories, she was like, what even is this nonsense? Like, what?
There's a lot of nonsense.
What are you doing? You need to explain. I took out like 12 jerseys from all the teams, and she's like, what is this? But she was very supportive. She came back. She was very excited for me to hear all my stories about nonsense. So I guess from that rambling situation, 12 out of 10 would do again, and probably doing again.
And yes, Sam, to address your comment, 12 out of 10, despite having to play Eldar 3 times. That was still fun.
Way to take it on the chin, Francois.
Yeah,
That's the beauty of teams. Someone has to do it. So, you go into it and you do your best. And
somebody has to get grenaded each round. It's just how it works.
And it was me 3 times.
I don't know what I expected for Warmasters, but I took Chaos Knights, and I was just like, well, I'm not trying to win. So one of my buddies locally, he even offered me Eldar. He's like, I have everything you need if you want to just take Eldar. I'm like, nah. It's just it's like, I mean, yeah, if I want to like kind of keep up the charade of like singles meta, I guess I could. We can all pretend.
The charade of singles meta.
We can pretend, but no. So I was like, look, I'm just going to try to roll dice at like, at like a high level with higher level people, but like still keep it really like extremely chill and have fun. So I brought Chaos Knights. I was kind of bummed too, because like as soon as I saw Arnie's like Team Germany's list, I was like, shit, that list is so much better than mine, but it was all right.
I played in round 1.
Yeah, I was like, damn it, like, that list is good. And it would have that list, not to bury lead, but like 3 of my matchups for sure, that list would have been better to have. But I brought Shalaxi, 10 War Dogs. It was 4 Carnivores, a Stalker, 5 Brigands, shooty ones, and Changeling. It was also because they were the ones I had hobbied up, so like it was good motivation. The army came out great, looked great. If you're in the Discord, you probably seen pictures. So I was very happy with it. It showed up to Belgium in one piece. It's always a bonus. And I ran into Custodes, Necrons, Custodes, IK, Eldar. So I got the Custodes matchup kind of figured out by the 3rd time. So I managed to squeak out a win on that one. But yeah, I was like, man, you're. It really doesn't matter what melee war dog you have. As soon as you go into Custodes, it's just like
it's over.
That's it. Your melee is tank shock. Your melee is tank shock, and then you die. So I was like, So basically, I figured out the pattern. Unless you just bring like Germany's list, that's what I'm gonna do. I have a GT in 2 weeks, and then I have Nova in 3. So I'll probably just take Germany's list. People were asking me, they're like, how do you win your 3rd Custodes matchup or whatever? I was like, well, I found out the play pattern is you run backwards, while spamming the exploding sixes strat while making 0 mistakes and drawing good cards. And if that all happens for 5 turns straight, you will squeak out like an 11-point win. So that was pretty much how that went. And then IK was really funny too. I played I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was on Team Romania. He was their IK player, and I just deployed. I mean, like I made him drop first. He dropped something. Then I dropped the changeling, and then he dropped something, and I just put everything on line, like just right on line. Didn't even like look up after I was like.
Yeah.
And I looked up right in the face and said, "I'm going to go first." And it just he rolled a 2, I rolled a 5, and then I tabled him in 2 turns. And then he was just like, "How do I even deal with that?" And I'm like,
"You go first."
I was like, brother, no. I was like, no one's going to do this to you in teams. So just
nobody's going to bet it all on this die roll at the beginning.
Bet it all.
But I would, because like I knew I probably wasn't even going to make it to, like with the I was hoping to make it to like maybe like 4-2 in that field because it was a strong field. I knew most people weren't bringing 2 armies to WTC, so I knew everyone was going to bring like good armies. So I was hoping for I was actually playing on 3-3 with like maybe 4-2 as a stretch goal or shadow round. But if I went to the shadow round, I would for sure would have dropped. I probably wouldn't even played. So at that point, I was just like, yeah, fuck it. I'm already I'm not going to shadow round. So whoop, there we go. That was it.
Well, Warmasters is a very strange tournament because it's a super major, like 284, I think, players. And sure, there's your usual assortment of local, like French and Belgian players who are there for fun, but you also have a much higher than usual percentage of sharks in the water. So my round 1 was against Arna's like Chaos Knights list. So I rock up to the table and I find out that I'm playing Arna and his Chaos Knights, and I'm like, I'm playing my Death Watch, who's really, really good at killing infantry, or 1 or 2 big things a turn because oats is a hell of a drug. You know what it can't kill? 14 War Dogs.
14 War Dogs.
Anthony and I played that matchup, and Anthony was working so hard, and I was just on autopilot the entire time.
Yeah, so that was an interesting round 1 at Warmasters for me. But Arna's great. We had a fantastic game, and I was like, all right, this is going to be a tough tournament. And then I got a little bit luckier in my pairings. I paired into a bunch of Belgian and French team members as well. So I got to play my games in French, which, given how jet lagged I was actually very helpful for my poor addled brain. It removed one step of kind of mental workload from the equation. And I didn't quite get as lucky as Innes did with my pairings, but I got pretty lucky. I only pulled 1 Eldar, which I managed to beat. So I had a very successful Warmasters. I went 5-1, and for a split second, I was like, "Oh my god, am I going to be in the shadow round?" Until a bunch of people tied, and then I got knocked down to 10th. But it was an interesting moment where I was like, "Ooh, I don't actually want to. If I get there, I will decline." But that was that wasn't even a question in the end. But it was an interesting tournament. I will say, now that I've done it, I understand why people pass on it and focus on teams.
It's definitely an extra layer of exhaustion, right?
That's a lot of Warhammer. And you saw me on the Thursday, Nathan, when it got really hot and I was about to die in a puddle at my table.
Slowly spilling over, basically.
Yeah.
Tough. I love the added physical level of difficulty. You're like, "Oh, you guys want air conditioning? Too bad.
It was a lot more physically demanding than I expected. I will say that.
Yeah.
I
love How'd it go, Nathan?
I brought Death Watch, an army I had 3 reps with. I borrowed an army from Team New Zealand member David Gaylord. I'll tell this funny story at the end of this because it's a funny story. If you might have heard it on the main show, but I'm going to tell it again because you guys need to hear it twice. So I borrowed an army from him. I had never touched a Death Watch army with my own hands, only on TTS. So I got 3 reps with it. My first game was into a very nice Belgian World Leaders player who was at his very first GT. He'd never played any competitive 40K before. he was like, yeah, me and my friend just decided to show up to this. I was like, man, this is gonna be the
That's
rudest
awesome.
awakening. But
That's
also,
awesome for
like,
him, though.
let's have an awesome time. And then I won 20-0 on differential because I tabled him in like 2 turns, more or less. I think it was by the end of turn 3, there was just no world leaders left on the table.
Have you no shame?
None.
Come on. Come on.
I triggered the captain's Thief of Secrets on a rhino, and then he charged into Karn's squad, or Karn charged him. Karn killed like everything except the captain and 1 Deathwatch veteran, and the captain triggered his special ability to do devastating wounds and get extra attacks and stuff like that. And with his 4 damage power fist, did like 16 mortal wounds with devastating wounds, and then just punched a whole berserker squad off the table by himself, basically, which in and of itself was kind of funny. And then there was just Karn sitting there like, wow, what did I do to deserve this? And then he died. I then played I called the shot. I was like, now I'm going to play a WTC team captain. That's just how this is going to work. I won too hard, and now I'm going to pay for my hubris with pairings. And so I paid the Norwegian team captain, Patrick Woods. Tim Pinney is wearing his jersey right now, I believe, who is playing Gene Stealer Cult on a mission I had never played before, which was Servo Skulls. Just never played it before. So I was like, cool, new experience, new army. Time for Rep 5 on this army into what should be an okay matchup if I play perfectly. I lost on turn 5 when I had killed 6,000 points of Gene Stealer Cult, and there were still 2,000 points of Gene Stealer Cult on the table. I had a unit of Desolation Marines and like 2 depleted Infiltrator squads left. And he managed to get a bunch of the objectives into my zone and scored like 16 points of primary or something like that on turn 5 and just squeaked it out to an 11-9 win over me. And I was like, that's cool. I feel okay about this because I barely know what I'm doing. And then I played a very nice man who was on Team Iceland who was also playing Deathwatch. And I was like, so if I just deploy my Desolation Marines and then hope to go first, this could be okay. So we both deployed our Desolation Marines. I got first turn. I popped Kraken rounds because he'd scooted himself slightly out of their normal range. Popped Kraken, made them my Oath's target, and just blew his Desolation Marine unit off the table. And then had effectively tabled him except for a Land Speeder and a Storm Speeder at the end of turn 5 and won that like 18-2 or 17-3 or something like that. And then by this point I was getting really tired because of all my travel delays and like not getting a lot of sleep because of it. And so I went into game 4 against Florian playing for Team Netherlands, playing Thousand Suns, and he like yeeted me into the sky basically. He was like, I see your like attempts at tactics and I declare them terrible. It didn't help that I moved my Proteus kill team into a position that I need him to be in. And the Changeling turned off their shooting, so I didn't get to do any of the shooting that I wanted to do with the unit into like Magnus and some stragglers. And then they charged, and I low rolled the charge, so I didn't get to do what I wanted to do 100% with it. So they got into the Changeling. And then they failed their battle shock test, so they didn't get to fight. So my Proteus kill team was just kind of standing in front of Magnus going, cool. And then they died. And it was at this point where I was down to 2 brain cells for a 3 brain cell army. So I was really rubbing those 2 brain cells together, hoping to make this work when 2 judges were like, hey, your Marines look funny. And I was like, I don't know what you mean, bud. So they were like, yeah, like 35 of your Deathwatch veterans don't have backpacks. And I was like,
what? What?
That's a problem. They're like, yeah, so like you can finish this game. But if you don't have more backpacks for them, we have to pull all the models because of their modeling policy. And I was like, that's fine. I don't have any extra backpacks. This is not my army. I don't know what to do with it. So I dropped because I was tired and because I wasn't 100% sure how to replace all those models, mostly because I was tired. Because some people offered some alternatives, talking to teammates and stuff like that, which is one of the beauties of WTC is that if you're ever in trouble, somebody somewhere is going to help you fix the situation. And somebody was like, yeah, one of our teammates is here. He's not playing in Warmasters. We can probably get you a whole Death Watch army. I was like, no, that's okay. I can't do this. Just let me sleep. Oh, there goes Cliff. So instead, I got to go talk to David, bring him over to the judges and be like, so you need to figure this out. And Team Germany came to the rescue like they had repeatedly over WTC and brought him like 30 some odd backpacks for his Death Watch veterans so that they could all be battle ready. So I'm assuming he must have hastily until like the middle of the night painted backpacks. And that's my story of Warmasters. It was a lot of fun. I went 2-2. I probably could have played a couple more games and maybe gone like 3-3 or something like that. And it would have been a good time. But I preserved myself because I then subsequently was going to go and record like 30 to 40 hours of content.
Yeah,
which by the end of it, I was delirious by the end.
Yeah, you were like glued to that front desk from like that point on, from what I saw. I did enjoy my last game.
Again, my audio doesn't work.
No, Cliff.
Just the best. Just the best. I'm gonna return when I can hear you guys. And Jeremy.
And he's gone again.
There you go.
He'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, he'll be back. He's gonna figure it out. But yeah, I really enjoyed the my Eldar game, my round 6, when you came over and you got to hear me be like sassy, my opponent, like the fun kind of sassy, not the mean sassy. He was sandbagging a little bit. He like threw some Suppenhawks in front of me, you know, and he was kind of like trying to bait out an Overwatch. And he's like, "Oh, I don't know if this is the right play," you know, just threw it like right in the middle of the army. He's like, "Oh, you know, I've never done this before," and I'm like, "Oh, you've never done this before? You never ever watched that name card pop out in the middle of my army?" and he was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Yeah,
I'm just a little guy."
Yeah, I was like, I know what you're trying to do. We had a chill game after that, but yeah, I was kind of like, and you can cut that out. It doesn't have to get crazy. You're playing Eldar, you're gonna win. Doesn't have to get crazy. So it was good fun.
Now, but before we move on, I want to talk about one of the weirder WTC traditions, because I noticed you're both wearing traded shirts, and if I'd known that I was going to be on earlier today when Tim PM'd me, I would also have planned ahead. But I'm at the cottage; I don't have mine. How weird is it that it's like 40 degrees with the humidex in that hall, and you're playing around against someone, and you're drenched in sweat, and you're smelly, and you're disgusting, and the first thing you do if you have a good game is you take your shirt off, trade it with your opponent, and put their sweaty, disgusting shirt on while they put yours on? I kind of love it, but it's a little bit gross.
I was always handed clean, freshly laundered ones.
Oh, I was not.
Florian yeeted me into the sun, and then as an apology, handed me a jersey. Somebody got a picture of me and Florian hugging because it was like such a nice gesture, but it was also definitely I'm sorry I hurt you in so many ways kind of gesture. But yeah, it's definitely was funny. There were several people who were playing just without shirts for like large portions of the event because it got hot in the hall.
Very hot.
I get it. Yep.
Which was crazy because that hall is huge, and I think so. They had a fence that basically was like chain link fence or whatever that was cutting the hall in half, and even of that, only 2/3 of the part that we had access to was physically filled with like players. So it's kind of crazy that it was like 1/3 of the entire hall was filled up. And it still was just that much heat. It was more bearable on the final day on Sunday. I think it was like maybe just people like had thinned out or something like that. Can entire teams drop? I don't know, but it definitely was more bearable on the very last day. But that first day,
they started opening the front doors. They started opening the front large roller doors that they've got. They opened those on the last few days.
We were not there last year, but all the stories I've heard is that it was much worse last year.
So it was like 35-ish outside during that time, which meant it was like low 40s inside of the hall and like extra humid and stuff like that.
I will shout out my friend, the tree by the front door. Me and my teammate Ridvin Skari, we would go and just lie down under the tree in between rounds. Just kind of lay on our backs in the grass, touch some grass.
Literally touch
tree above us. That was
great.
That's awesome.
That tree is now an honorary member of Team Canada.
You need to bring it a jersey next year, or like a little scarf that you can tie around it.
Just tie a flag around it.
Exactly. There you go.
Real quick, when we have a little natural pause, I want to shout out Ben McJurek. He put in the super chat. It says "Feed the Stat Children," $5. Thank you, Ben McJurek. His name is Ben Jurek normally, but he's now Matt Jurek, and I believe he's now a Lord of Scotland because we actually loaned him out to Team Scotland. I'm not really sure what happened, but their guard player was
You got chicken
disposed,
pox.
whatever. Yeah, chicken pox. Yeah, that was it. And so we were kind of like, hey, we put out a call to any coaches, prospects. If you want to go play for another team, really help a team out, then here's your opportunity. And Ben just jumped right on it and really leaned into the bit. We got pictures of him with the.
I heard he rented a kilt. Is that right?
Yeah, he got a kilt. He got the flag. He got the little hat. He did the whole 9 yards. Like he really leaned into it, and apparently he did pretty good too. So they said he was obviously he really saved him, helped him out, but they said he was a real asset for the team as well. So that was kind of cool.
It's awesome.
So, yeah, I get some firsthand team's experience because he was there as a coach, and then he's like, well, now I'm just in the team event. It was good times.
That's great.
Francois, Nathan, did you guys get any chance to see the country while you're there, like at all? Like
Zero.
The amount of country that I saw was the 30-minute walks that I took to the stadium every day from the hotel, which actually went through like a very scenic kind of underpass, bike path kind of thing. Where I learned apparently that Belgians love ice hockey because there's an ice hockey training center on that walk from our hotel to the arena. Other than that, no, I bought I didn't have any time, so I ended up buying souvenirs for my wife in the airport at the duty-free shop where I was like, I can buy Belgian waffles and I can buy Belgian chocolate. Excellent. Just going to get through customs with it right now.
Yeah, it's funny because the town we're in, Mechelen, is it to us uncultured North Americans, I guess it looks like it's very old and touristy, and there's this beautiful church. It's not a tourist spot at all. Everything is closed at 9 p.m. and it's kind of this quiet suburb where people just live, and there's the conference center there. And on our walk, it looks like you're walking through history, and this should be a touristy area, and it's not at all. But no, this is one thing that's kind of tough, is that the schedule is so compact that I was gone for 8 days, and it was all flights and Warhammer, and that's it.
Yep. Same.
I really tried to navigate this in the most dad hammer way possible, and I think I did a pretty decent job. So remember back 20 minutes ago when I was saying hey Cindy, I'm going to be emotionally unavailable. I also said, how do you feel about a trip to Belgium? And she was like, oh, awesome, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, also I'm not going to be really available for it. But we had some lead time, and my son's swim coach / babysitter, she was available, and I was like, hey, her name's Willow. I was like, hey, what if we saw if Willow wanted to come along? She's young, probably has traveled a little bit, but not crazy amount. I was like, if she's willing to, if we pay for her her room board, maybe she should be down, and then that way with the days where I'm not available, you have a second adult there to help you with, with Victor, my son, who's 3 years old. That way it doesn't feel it feels like you're on vacation. It doesn't just feel like you're there to babysit my kid so I can go do my stuff. And that actually, that first night was a little bit rough as he went through the time zone change, but that actually worked out beautifully. So we got there, a day to decompress. I met up some teammates, and then we did 2 days of Warmasters. And then after that, I saw we tried to do that little stat check episode thing. That fell through, so that kind of sucked because it took a couple hours out of the day. But we saw Dynat that day. Then we saw Bruges, and then Ghent, and then a little bit of Mechelen, and then the week I came back to help with the teams. And the next time you guys go to Belgium, because it's going to be WTC is going to be Belgium next year, I would say that Antwerp and Brussels definitely feel a little bit skippable, but Bruges was incredible. It looked like something out of like a Disney fairy tale movie, something like that. Like the architecture and everything was insane. And we had a little running joke in my family because every time I saw like one of those little waffle stands where like they just had them like side of the building, people would just be making waffles and giving waffles with little flags in it. Super touristy. But every time I got tired, I would like go like run off and get myself a waffle.
Get a waffle.
So they start calling it waffle power. So they're like, "Hey, can we get a little bit low in waffle power?" I'm like, "Man, maybe." So, but they put sugar on it and they make the waffle, and so it like caramelizes, and so you don't even need to put anything on it, and they just hand it to you in a napkin or whatever you eat it. It's so good.
Yeah, we had a waffle maker at our hotel in the breakfast bar. It was great. And we were this close to breaking open one of the maple syrup cans we brought as gifts. Because we brought maple syrup for all the other teams.
Maple syrup cans from Team Canada.
That was our team gift. We'd give a maple syrup can. But they don't,
Belgian
do
waffles.
maple syrup.
Belgian waffles with Canadian maple syrup. I mean, like that just sounds like
what a combo.
We resisted. We kept all the cans because we had them for opposing teams and also for the organizers and the judges.
Oh, that's awesome.
Someone like brought a duffel bag full of maple syrup cans.
Jesus Christ.
I feel extremely left out. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll mail you maple syrup. Actually, you know what? Next time, don't miss your plane. Come to the event, and I'll give you maple syrup.
Oh, hey. I see how it is. I'm going to get blown. No, that's fair.
Wow.
Okay, that was unfair. You didn't miss the plane. The flight was canceled. I'm sorry.
Shots
fired. The traveling was like super cursed this year. Like I thought we were going off without a hitch, and then after we were stressed out from all of Brussels to London Heathrow because the American. So we booked British Airways, and when we got to Brussels, we couldn't find any signs of British Airways. There was just no signs at all. So we're like, well, where the heck are we checking the baggage? And so we're just like running around like all over the place, with all this luggage. Little kid who's constantly trying to like wander off in the crowd of a very busy airport, and we're just running around like trying to find it. And like I just keep I'm like asking people, I'm like, where's British Airways? Where's British Airways? Where's British Airways? And then finally, like after being there for like 2 hours, someone's like, oh, well, it's not open yet, but it'll be open in about 30 minutes over there in that line. I see a line, it's like huge. It's got like 60 people in it. And I look, someone's holding a piece of paper, and I look and it's their boarding pass, and I see the little British Airways logo. So like, okay, great. So we go there, it opens, and by the time we get to that line, we barely have enough time for security and then passport control because these lines are moving slow, and we literally get there with like a minute to spare before they shut off boarding. It was so ridiculous that they like really if they had opened up like an hour earlier, it would have been, or an hour earlier would have been fine, but it was just stressful for no reason. Then I was worried about missing our connection. Ended up not having to worry about that because when we got to London Heathrow, which by the way, screw Terminal 5, that terminal sucks. But the 777, the physical plane that we were going to fly back to Miami on, when it was arriving that day into Heathrow, I guess it had like a lightning strike and a bird strike within 15 minutes of each other. And so they grounded it for 24 hours to do like safety inspections and everything, and make sure the thing doesn't like come apart in the air over the Atlantic. Because that would obviously be like that would be super inconvenient, if my plane like came apart. So they did that, but they put us up in a hotel and everything, and then we went out to but we had like no luggage, so we went to Tesco, did a little Tesco run, got new clothes, like just the clothes you find at Tesco, some snacks, definitely a lot of booze. And then Cindy and I, we actually got adopted by like a family that we had met that was also on that flight that got bumped. And so we hit it off. We exchanged numbers. They live in Miami Beach. So we're actually going to like do dinner with them in a few weeks. So that was really
cool.
And their daughters loved Victor, and Victor loved them, so that was really cool. And so the four of us actually did dinner, and then we went out and did and did like a London by Night tour while their daughters and our babysitter watched Victor, and they all like watched like cartoons or whatever, So that was really sweet. And the next morning, or we had an afternoon flight, went back to Miami, and then I finally got home at like 8:30, and had to be back. Had to get up at 5 to be back at work the next day, where I probably got my ass kicked because I was just tired and jet lagged. That was it.
Nice. I definitely want to. No, go ahead, Cliff.
No, I was just saying, way to turn that around. It's like a stressful journey. It turns into making friends with your family, getting the opportunity to see London. Like, that's dope.
Yeah, we really tried to make the best of it. I'm glad that we like got inconvenienced, but like we got inconvenienced for a long enough period of time that we were able to get like shower, fresh pair of clothes, good night's sleep on a good bed. Because if it was like inconvenience, but like for like a few hours, it would have been just miserable. But the fact that it was like a full day, and I was able to just call. I called my pet sitter. I was like, "Hey, we need like one more day." And then luckily I had took some extra time off to decompress, like from the vacation to work. And so I didn't really have to like worry about getting to work or anything because I had that day off anyhow. But I just didn't get that decompression I wanted. That's fine. It worked out. It was fun.
Yeah, I want to add some, I think, like an extra day either at the beginning or at the end of like travel stuff, just to like be able to do some tourism stuff, because or just not do Warmasters. Although Warmasters was fun, there's definitely like a whole bunch of other stuff you can do if you bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That would be if I go back next year, I would. So the only wrong Warmasters is really cool, but the opportunity to go back next year and not have to have like that stress of traveling with an army, and like I think you did the right thing just borrowing someone's army. That'd definitely be the way to do it.
That's my.
Or you do Warmasters, but you just do the first day of Warmasters, something like that, and then just spend the rest of the time.
You go like
by far.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was good. No, it's all right. It was good practice, but by far the best part was the social aspect, far and away. So many people came up to me, and I was just like, oh. So many people came up to me and just kind of like looked at me, and I was like looking at them. They're like, Tim, and I was like, yeah. Like, oh, hey,
my daughter guest starring in the episode.
I'm sorry, we didn't wake her, did we?
Nope, she wasn't awake for any of this. She just she walked out of her room, gave me a hug, went back. I'm pretty sure she was asleep the whole time.
Yeah, that's the old sleepwalk.
Yep.
I will say that it was funny meeting like people for the first time at the event. So like one of the biggest things about the event is definitely meeting people, and like it definitely gets to like a madness level at a certain point because you're like shaking hands with people, you're hugging people you barely know except as like Discord avatars and stuff like that. Or like the community is full of 6'5", 6'6" people who somehow are also very sneaky. My favorite example is always going to be Liam VSL sneaking up behind me like at a table and being like, "I love your show," and me being like, "Holy shit!"
That guy is I've seen pictures. I knew he was tall. I didn't realize he was like that tall.
He's quite tall. He's also lovely. Like he was very nice, and it was nice to get to talk to him and meet him and like see him a couple other times throughout the event. It was just, you never expect people who are that tall to be so sneaky and like get up behind you, like not expecting it. I also realized that Tim and Eric Forsman are twins. Eric Forsman of Team USA fame. I definitely on the first day that Eric arrived, for a moment because of sleep deprivation, was like, Tim? Then I was like, it took my brain like a second to catch up to where I was. I'm like, oh no, it's Eric. God damn it. But I've also been staring at you for an uncomfortable amount of time and need to say something to bridge this gap real quick.
I'm pretty sure that was a running gag because I was looking for Tim at one point and I go to the Team America table and I go, does anyone see Tim? And then Eric goes, what do you mean? I'm Tim.
My favorite.
We were doing that all week long, and it was hilarious at the bar because we were swapping shirts. We were like really leaning into it, and then at the bar, of course, it was just people were just getting drunk. And I think the funniest part was like people were coming up. At one point, Eric was arm wrestling people or something like that or whatever, and like people were coming up to me. Yeah. People were like coming up to me and congratulating like me for like beating people in arm wrestling. I'm like, yeah, man, like It's all the grip. I was like I was all the way on the other side. That bar was a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
We definitely like pushed so many people into that bar. A bar that's like meant for 5 people, maybe 10 people to be at it. Like with 3 bartenders instead got like 100 people showing up at it. Like at night. My favorite memory though of Tim and his clone.
10 p.m. every night.
Oh. You were asleep at 10 p.m. every night? Oh.
Maybe 11.
Irresponsible adult Francois.
No,
so responsible of you.
It's not because I'm responsible. It's because I was so tired I could barely function.
That's another reason why you don't play Warmasters. To just keep the extra energy. It was nice because
on the Sunday, I got my last round. My game finished early, and I started drinking those whiskey beers. And I had like 3, which is not even that many. But I was like, oh, this is too many beers. I can't do this anymore.
Oh no, I think it was a combination of the sun not going down till like 10:30 at night, and then all the waffle energy. I felt like I was like
waffle power. Yeah,
I had waffle power. I was getting home every night. Well, I was getting back to the hotel every single day at like 2, 3 in the morning, and then getting right back up again at 7. And the only respite was like that middle part where I was just entirely with my family seeing Belgium, and I was coming back every single night for the team meetings. And I was getting back from those like 11. But the rest of the time, yeah, like I was definitely going out and socializing everything. We had a very lovely team dinner also at the last night, which is great because award ceremony. And then my wife and I went out to team dinner. Very touching toast to our logistics guy who worked Josh behind the scenes, who does so much work, and then to Sean, and then just to everyone really. And then we went out for the social. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah, let me shout out all the support people on all the teams because you talk about WTC and it's always all about the players. But I don't know about you guys, but I would probably be dead if it wasn't for Dickie and all the other coaches, Jeff and all of them, just like filling my water bottle and putting like hydration tablets in there and making sure that you can actually keep functioning. It makes a huge difference.
Give me somebody to talk to.
Yeah. Well, we had 5 coaches, so whenever you'd walk around, you had someone to talk to.
Yeah, not that it ever stopped me from just randomly tapping a player on the shoulder or like walking up to a player's table and then chit-chatting with them next to their opponent. Definitely never did that. Not a single time. But yeah, the social thing afterwards is like definitely a big piece. It feels like I also did what Tim did, and I didn't go to sleep until like 1 or 2 in the morning every day. But I woke up with staff at like 5 or 6 in the morning to do breakfast.
Ooh, ouchies.
And then we were at the event center every day at like 7. So I was getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I think I got 30 to 40 hours of sleep across the whole 10 days or whatever that we were there.
So
rough.
By the end, I was getting pretty delusional and sassy. If you ask Tomek or Joker about it, they're like, man, Nathan is like losing his shit over here. Just losing his mind. He's like being so mean to people randomly. Oh my gosh, there goes Cliff again.
It happens.
Because I'm like, I like to pride myself on being nice to basically everybody that I meet. And my 2 co-hosts were like, Nathan, you were starting to be not nice to people. And I was like, oh shit.
You started to be the opposite of nice.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. Well, on the last day, I was pretty drunk, and you just do too many drunk things. That's all there is to it, and that's all I'll say. I don't know. It's a late night podcast.
You got to watch out those Belgian beers. They're sneaky.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They pour strong drinks. I definitely asked for like a light vodka and orange juice for Sean Naden like on the last night, and they definitely just poured like half a glass of vodka for him still. I was like, okay, I guess the whole glass is the full strength. Vodka cocktail.
Apparently, I didn't test this, but apparently that bar we were at, Bar Popular, apparently like when they have that many people, they just go until everyone leaves. Is what I've been told. They're saying like last year, like they'd be like in a situation where like they'd go, but there'd be like 2 people left, and it's like 5 in the morning. The staff are like, please go home.
Please go home, yeah.
Please free us. But I definitely believe it, especially because the population of the town probably triples while we're there.
It definitely felt like
minimum.
It definitely felt like it. There was nobody there. So like the weirdest thing to me as somebody from Chicago, like, is that they have no street lights. I'm like walking down a street and there are like no street lights except some windows up. And I'm like, this normally would make me feel very uncomfortable, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but it felt
this
like
is the-
super safe there.
It was super safe because there was nobody there to do anything to you. Like, like
Yeah, there's so much building and so much architecture and everything like that. And like, yeah, there was just like no one there. Like every 15 minutes, like someone would like whiz by on a bicycle, and that was about it.
Yep. I did almost get hit by
watch out
bicycles
for
repeatedly.
watch out for those bikes, because if you're in the bike lane, they will not give a
They'll
damn.
run you
They will
down?
run you over.
I love it. Get out of the bike
Come for
lane,
ya.
nerds.
But they had a strong bicycle culture. It was kind of
If you're lucky, you might get a bell ring, but
I always got a bell ring.
Ching,
like
ching,
your mate Kier almost died on the first day. He was just walking. in
ching
the
ching
middle of the bike
slam.
lane. Almost got clipped. Yeah.
Get tank shocked by a bike.
That'll be 22d6
Mortal
plus one because bike.
All right, let's pivot over to questions. Got a decent amount. First one is from a Dan F. Tim, how do you score good deals on 40K lots models? Do you just wait for panic sellers to scoop them up, or is there a better method to use? Basically, that's it. I try to. So when they're, you also have to know like how GW does their bundles. So for 8th edition, we had the start collecting boxes, which were usually I think like about 40% MSRP discount, and then the additional 15% discount that most friendly game stores would give on top of that, if not more. So those were obviously great. The thing is as we were kind of like transitioning to 9th edition, every time a codex would come out, they would also release a combat patrol, which then meant even though the models in the start collecting did not go out of production usually, that box itself would go out of production. And then you would, as the supplies kind of dwindled out, you would see on eBay for increasing prices, and you would hit a break point where that increasing price no longer made sense for the materials that were inside of it. Instead of getting a discount, you'd actually be paying more for the combat patrol than you would if you were paying for it individually. So usually what I would do if I was going to, I did this in 9th edition a couple times, where basically if I was going to start a new faction, I would try to buy at least one combat patrol, if not like two. Usually there usually didn't have to go more than that, because you don't really know what's going to be good with the new book and the new codex and the meta and everything. But if you bought like 2 of those bundles, it'd be good. And then the codex would drop, and then I would also buy a combat patrol. And so at that point, you had 2 start collectings and a combat patrol, and you were basically set. And then usually you just kind of fill it out from there. So that's usually like what I would do. And then also you have the Christmas battle boxes that they do every single Christmas. They always do one for Marines, and then they do 5 other ones, usually with a decent mix of Xenos and Chaos. So if you can combo that, that's good. So that's generally how I try to buy my new stuff. Used, I honestly just wait. If I even remotely think I'm going to want a faction, I try to buy it when it's bad, because people just get frustrated or they get sad or whatever. They will emotionally sell it. Like I don't try to like rob anyone, but I'll set up an alert. Like I bought a Death Guard army with like all the big stuff. You don't want the filler like the Plague Marines and the Pox Warriors. You want the big stuff. So I set up an alert for Death Guard, and it was like, and then every time an alert popped up for Death Guard lot, I would look and I'd be like, okay, does this have everything I want? I wanted Mortarion. I wanted the tanks, the Blight Haulers, the Plague Burst Crawlers, Terminators, all the meat. I wanted all that. And then I finally got one I liked, hit the trigger. It showed up. I opened it. I'm like, yep, it's all there. Closed it. It's in the garage. I haven't even touched it. And then even if I don't end up using it, which I probably will, but even if I don't end up using it, as long as that army is in a better place meta-wise than it was when I bought it, I will probably come out. It'll be a wash at minimum. I definitely won't like lose money on it. So that's generally what I do. And once you've been in the hobby a couple times, like it's a lot easier to do that, especially if you sell an army while it's hot. If you do that enough times, that can actually kind of like fund your hobby enough where you can like eventually buy 2 armies for the price of 1. And I did that with Tyranids. I sold my Tyranids when the Codex came out last year. It was right as we were going from Crusher into the new launch book, and like I was just pulling out like meta. I was selling like my lots, but I was pulling out all the meta stuff, and I was just putting it on auction. I was like, look, I'm not trying to like scout people, but if people want to bid each other for it, like I'm not going to stop you. I sold 2 Harpies, and I think I let them go to auction. One sold for like 160, one sold for 140. Yeah, it was insane. Yeah, I mean, but like I do have like some like like moral standards where I'm like not going to charge like a crazy price, but I'm like, hey, I will.
Yeah, no, that's not on you.
Yeah, that's not on me. Like I'm gonna put it out there. If people want to go like bananas, like and bid on it, like go nuts. And so then I'll sell meta armies. Actually sell armies while they're good, and then I'll buy armies while they're terrible. And that works pretty well for me.
Yeah.
Can I ask
websites? Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead. Yours on topic. Mine's gonna switch it.
No, I was gonna say you can go to like Reddit's Mini Swamp, and you can go on Facebook to local buy and shop groups, and you can go on Bartertown. I think is like one of the most reliable websites, and that's how I turned like 1 army into 3 armies. Is you can definitely just either trade stuff, which works out sometimes, especially now it works out very well with like kind of some of the supply issues you're seeing with GW, where you can turn like a unit that's desirable in a faction into like 3 units from an army you want to get or something like that. You just kind of have to watch, because sometimes, and what happened with me is I ended up getting like a 2,000 points Knights army when I was first starting into the hobby for like $150 or something like that, because it was part of a larger lot on eBay, and somebody's just like, I want it out. And sometimes you just find stuff like that. But you can play the stock market also as well.
Stocks.
Yeah, I like the market PvP. It's fun.
I've got a question for y'all collectively, since we're essentially at the Olympics of Warhammer 40K.
Mm-hmm.
What moment did you have where you were like, oh, okay, yeah, these are like the best players in the world? Did you have like a specific round or a turn or like an action that an opponent took where you're like, wow, that was didn't see that coming. That was incredible. That was an incredible move. And if you did, what was it?
Yeah, it didn't take any time at all. My very first game of Warmasters, I pair into Arne from Team Germany, and the way that he starts measuring is the angles and the distances for all of his 14 war dogs. Right away, you can tell. Okay, this is a good player. This is going to be a tough game. If you've been around for long enough, it's very easy within even the first turn of the game to kind of peg your opponent and go, okay, this is going to be a hard game. This is going to be a medium game. This is going to be an easy game. And I'm just rocking up round 1 of Warmasters. This is the first of, it's going to be 14 games of Warhammer. The very first one. I walk up to my table and the guy just pulls out a tape measure, all of his angles, all of his stuff. And of course, I knew Arne before the game started. I knew he was good. But it's like, oh, this is round 1 of a 283-person tournament, and we're already there. That this feels like the final table of any tournament.
Yeah, it was just when you walked in there, if you were even like have been remotely following worldwide events for the past year or so like that, it was just everyone was there. Everyone. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun. Just walk up to games, just spectate for a little bit. Especially Poland, man. They were just monsters. Skark and Eric actually became like friends because like I guess like Eric was the first American ever that Skark hasn't 20-0'd. So he was like, he was coming back to Eric later, and he was like Eric, match taught me a lot. GSC. Played next round, good, strong. The terrible Skark impression, but it was like They just became. It was just funny. It's just this quiet old Polish man, and then this like boisterous like Midwestern American, like instantaneous friends. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Next question, Tim and Francois, how was it to play at Warmasters? I will defer this question because I think we already talked about it a little bit. Francois, if you want to expand a little bit,
Well,
you can, by all means.
I think I hope to go back next year. If I go back next year, I might skip the Warmasters. As much fun as it was, it was grueling. It was too many games of Warhammer. I kept, before the event, I kept thinking to myself, the people who don't play Warmasters, they're like cowards. We're crossing the Atlantic to play Warhammer. Let's play as much Warhammer as we can. And then I realized that there is actually such a thing as too much Warhammer. But Warmaster itself as an event, if you're not also going to do like 7 games of teams right after, is wonderful. And if you have, I've actually never been to LVO because I keep hearing stories that make me not want to go to LVO. But I think if you're gonna travel for a big event once a year, if there's like one that you could pick, and you're gonna travel and you're gonna have to pay for a flight and hotel anyway, I would say go to Warmasters. Of all the events I've been to, all the singles events I've been to, like this was by far the best, and it's just super well organized. It runs very smoothly. There's refs everywhere. They're wonderful. The terrain's great. There's a fact, so you know what you're doing. If you're going to go to one event that you're going to hop on a plane for and pay a hotel for, go to Warmasters. That's my answer.
That's awesome.
Warmasters. We lost clip again. Warmasters. I definitely echo that, and also keep in mind that you don't have to be associated with the official team of a nation to attend. Anyone can attend Warmasters, and a lot of people do. There's a lot of French and Italians there, I think, and Spaniards. But Warmasters had like that final boss kind of singles open kind of vibe, in a good way. That I haven't really felt since like LVO of 2020. The last couple LVOs just haven't really felt that way. Like, yes, there are sharks there, it's like 1,000 people, and all the American sharks, and then usually like Manny and then like 1 or 2 other people from like Europe will show up. But it's generally Warmasters from top to bottom just felt like you said, it had that final boss energy. So it's going to be really hard to top that. I'll report back when I get back from Nova, but like I said, I can't imagine. It might be harder because Nova, the terrain is it's not going to be WTC terrain. So like I might run into the towering brick wall at some point through there. But as far as the field, like I said, I ran into Stefan round 1 from Austria, and we felt about equal footing as far as skill level. And then it felt like I was a little bit above everyone else. I was playing Worst Army, but like everyone felt like all my opponents felt like they were good and competent and like skillful, and then they knew what they were doing. It just no one really felt like they were just like kind of like wandering around like lost or something like that. I didn't run into any first timers, but like definitely varying degrees of skill, but everyone felt confident. You just tell the field, and then if you got anywhere close to the top tables, like if you dipped into the top 50 tables, you were probably playing like national level like players.
Out of 6 rounds, I had
it was crazy.
5. Out of 6 rounds, I had 5 national team players.
Yeah,
those are people who are best in their countries. You'll just run right into them, and you'll learn that like lots of metas have good players real fast.
Yeah, there's levels.
Yep. I think 4 out of my 6 were national players. It was pretty cool.
And 4 for me.
Yep. Next question. Francois, is there anything you're looking to improve on for next WTC?
Lots of things. It was actually, I'm not super happy with my play in the teams event for at least some of the games. I mean, I do this thing that lots of people do where I hyper focus on mistakes and I like identify mistakes and then I go, wow, I should have done that. Right. And fine. You can't always be perfect. You have to give yourself permission to not be perfect. but I do feel like I did not play in at least a couple of those rounds to my usual standards. Now, why? I'm not sure. Was it like fatigue, jet lag? Was it the sheer awesomeness of WTC getting to me? Was it a combination of all that? But I definitely think I can play better next year, and I'm very keen to just playing better next year. And the one thing I'm going to say that I'm looking forward to doing to improve my play, and it's perhaps going to sound weird, but if I was 20 pounds lighter and I had like gotten back into jogging a little bit, or just walked my dog more for like the 2 months before WTC, I would have done better. Because the physical strain of the event, it sounds weird to say because you're at a table playing toy soldiers, but the physical strain of the event, I think if I'd been in better physical shape, I would have scored like 1 or 2 more points per game just from that. So that's my goal for the next year. Is I'm gonna lose a little bit of weight because God knows I could use it, and like if nothing else, just make a pact with myself because I walked 15,000 steps a day at WTC. My normal step count, because I have a dog that I walk twice a day, is like 8,000. So it's about twice what I normally do. So I think if nothing else, what I should do is in the like 60 days before WTC, work up to walking my dog 15,000 steps a day, so that it's not so much of a shock on the system when you get there.
You end up doing a lot of walking. For sure. Even just when you're not at the venue, like just Mechelen, like moving around, going to the venue, stuff like that. There's a lot of walking. 8,000 steps a day is pretty good, though. They say that's like the main like break point where you start really seeing the benefits if you do 8,000.
Well, you can take my Labradoodle for that. I would not walk 8,000 steps a day if I didn't have a dog that desperately needs it, and if she doesn't get it, she starts eating the furniture.
Yeah. Let's see. Tim, do you think you're going to try for the US team WTC again next year? Man, it was really cool. The trial process was great. And I made it to the final cut. I think we got down to 12 people, and I was in that final 12. And then I kind of hit like my limit of like how much time and dedication I personally was able to give. So that was cool to find out about myself. It got really neck and neck. But I don't think next year. I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I'll be down to coach next year. I can see like doing. Now that I've done Warmasters, I've checked out my bucket list. Now that I've seen most of Belgium, I saw all the big cities and a couple of smaller ones. Now I could justify going and doing a more compact schedule where I'm literally just there for the teams. Cut the time down in half, and I would go as like coaching or coverage. I actually really, really, really enjoyed the prep work and the coaching aspect of it. Just the when we showed up for the first practice, and then really trying to like come up with those crazy lists, like the GK list, that orc list, Sean Naden's NID list, the amount of work and thought that went into that, like. People always like that are outside the process will be like, well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And it's like, yes, we thought of everything. I think the only blind spot we had was that Thousand Suns FSU list. We were a little bit surprised by that, but I mean, we saw like, I think we tested some crazy stuff. I think my favorite crazy list that I can say it now, that didn't actually make it, but we came really close to bringing it was, a Porphyrion and 1,100 points of guard indirect with a couple sidelines.
I love that though. I love the thought of that. I won't lie.
It was actually distressingly good. You just could not play the mission against it at all. The only thing that even came kind of close to doing okay into it was like CSM. Like even Knights, like they couldn't kill enough. And then they just stepped in the open. They just get blown away. That was really funny. But we tried a lot of stuff, and then the prep. Like once we got the list, me kind of like acting as like the opponent and like running through all like the opposing nations lists and stuff like that, and just really kind of like tightening the screws and the fine tuning all this stuff. just seeing the amount of work of it, and like I just really enjoy that. But my wife wants to do. She's been wanting to do like marathons and half marathons, stuff like that. And so she's been so supportive of me. So next year I'm going to be supportive of her. And I'm going to take a step back from 40K and just focus on like obviously this show and then like maybe coaching for Team USA. And then I'm gonna be the supportive husband, let her do her dreams for a year. And then maybe we'll just do like an alternating thing. I don't know. Yeah, that's my plan.
I like it.
Tim, do you use a scraping tool for your army usage spreadsheet, or is it just manually pulling up the top players from each GT and looking to find the faction? I am not good at computers, so yes, I'm just manually looking it up. That's why I only do it for armies I care about. However, I have apparently inspired Frank from our Stat Check Discord. He's launched a Patreon. I think they're called Dirt Sheets. We'll have to get him on the show sometime or something like that to explain what that name means. But yeah, basically it's a kind of a way for those of you who don't know. It's a process that I use to kind of like net list, where instead of net listing a straight list, I'm more like net list concepts. And this is the process I've used for many years. And as a book gets solved, use Wisdom of the Crowds to you basically just take all the armies that go like that kind of hit top cut or XM1 or something like that, and you just compile all those lists for about a 4-week period, a 5-week period, and then you just put like how often each unit shows up, and it will literally spit out 1,800, 1,900 points of a meta list, and you can just tweak it, and that way you know, okay, this list, these units have been proven to be what the winning players are taking or what the winning lists are taking, what's making it through the other side in multiple regions, multiple metas, multiple terrain, or whatever. So if I take this, that's it. That's the cookie cutter army, and it's one less thing I have to think about. So it sounds like a lot of work. It's really not. It takes like maybe like 20, 30 minutes every single weekend. And within 3-4 weeks, you could just spit out like, the cookie cutter list for a meta faction. This one's for Cliff. Cliff, what type of big boy time have you been enjoying recently?
Oh boy. So I've been running Knights and Custodies as my Custodies not really big boy time, but Knights are standard big boy time. But right now, and that's getting a little boring because my most frequent opponent is running Sisters, and it's just sort of a frustrating experience for them. The thing that I'm working on now is like an Eldar big boy time list, which is like, who cares? But I'm also thinking that by the time I'm done hobbying it to the level I want it to be, Eldar will be nerfed. I'm at least hoping that that's the case. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? Especially in a world where you only adjust points and not fundamental rules issues that are replete throughout the given index. Anyway, so it's like Avatar, both the Avatars, a Wraith Knight, block a Wraith Guard, a Way Leaper, a Farseer, a Spirit Seraph with the Wraith Guard, and then like a couple of units of Shadow Specters and a couple of units of Wraith Spiders to run around doing mission stuff, and that's it. Very few decisions to be made. You just shove a bunch of stuff in the middle of the board and say, like, I dare you to do something about it. Typically, people can't because it's Eldar. And off you go. But, like, again, it's like, I don't know. It sparks joy to hobby it right now. It doesn't spark joy to play it because it's I don't know, it's Eldar. So for me, it doesn't feel particularly nice for me in this moment in time.
That's where I'm at with my Eldar army as well. Is like I'm really enjoying hobbying it. It was like the first time in a long time that like painting had really sparked joy for me.
Yeah.
It keeps freezing on the funniest Cliff faces though. Like
Dude.
That's all I'm gonna say is like during the part where it was like, I don't know, it was frozen. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on face. I'm sorry. But like that was the reason I'm building that army is because it's making me happy for hobby purposes, which is like, that's fine. I think it's okay if something sparks joy for hobby and no other reason. People are just going to have to get over that, at some point, people are going to like elves just for liking elves and not necessarily because the play experience is good as well.
Yeah. I'll say this though, I'm anticipating some sort of like crusher situation whenever Nids drops, and I'm going to run that to the ground regardless of how bad it is because I
fully on board all the way.
love the big bugs. So
I have 12 Carnifex waiting on my shelf.
Let's go. My body is so ready for that.
Six Norns already. Just going to run triple of each if you can. I don't know. Just do stuff.
I'm going to do that. I'm definitely going to do that. Don't even care if it's good.
Nope. Will be.
So from Warboss, Ben McJurk, Tim, not a question, but meeting you and your family was a delight. Ben, it was lovely to meet you and your wife. And apologies about Victor that first night. He was obviously getting used to the time zone differential, and it's hard to explain to a 3-year-old what time zones are. So he was a little bit of a handful the first night, and the walls were thin, and it was kind of like,
oh,
sorry.
It's tough.
He got better throughout the week. Has any English person ever pronounced, this is a question from Jeff, aspiring forklift champion, has any English person ever pronounced Tim Penny as Timpani in that weird English way, kind of like how secretary becomes secretary? I've heard people say that. But like I think it was just like more as like a joke, like rather than like a weird pronunciation. Also, it'd be cool if Cliff talked about why hadrosaurs are underrated. Cliff, why are hadrosaurs? Oh, nope, he's gone.
He's gone.
We'll come back to that one.
Moving on.
From Preston, what's your favorite flavor of chip? Man, I love just OG Pringles. Hard
Ketchup, of course.
Oh God, how Canadian?
Listen, no. Let's talk about this. You Americans put ketchup on everything, including your eggs at breakfast. But for some reason, ketchup chips, that's a bridge too far. Explain.
I don't put ketchup on everything. I'm from the land where people put ranch on everything. Excuse me.
Wouldn't that just be tomato? Isn't that just tomato flavored chips with extra steps?
They put like vinegar on it and stuff like that.
Okay,
It's like a sweet, tangy kind of thing. We have them in the States.
Serious answer: the prawn crisps from the UK when I lived there. That's the real answer. But ketchup chips are really good.
I like salt and pepper. Like there's like a company here that makes salt and pepper potato chips. Those are the best chips to me.
Cliff, favorite chip?
Doritos, nacho cheese. It's not close,
okay,
everyone, to be clear. Like,
I love the traditional nerd answer.
Scientifically, the best
Doritos are good.
No, that would be Cheetos, Nathan.
I mean, no, it's like whatever powdered
really
cheese is fine. Any powdered cheese is fine.
That's a good question, and maybe
we're voting Doritos. It's all like legit, real cheese. It's not. There's no like weird stuff going on there. It's just the right combination of cheeses plus a touch of MSG. Just delicious.
There you go.
When Nathan makes it to one of our Ottawa events, I'm going to send him home with maple syrup and ketchup chips.
I'm fine with this. That's what people brought. So my wife has friends in Toronto, and they drove down and they brought like 3 bags of ketchup chips with them for us, and so we just had ketchup chips for like months.
I'm actually changing my answer from although OG Pringles are good, I'm changing it to tortilla chips because that's what nachos are made of. So there.
God dang it.
That
is a good answer.
That's the long game.
Solid answer.
I was thinking that, like, I was like, I can't make nachos out of Pringles, or can I?
Well, you could.
I guess you could. Cliff, you missed it. You cut out. Jeff, aspiring forklift champion, would love it if you would talk a little bit why hadrosaurs are underrated.
Oh my God, really? Okay.
So I'm gonna take a nap.
Okay. No. You'll like this too, Nathan. He said.
Let him cook.
Enthusiasm. 3 reasons. 1, evolved in the Cretaceous. We're able to deal with flowering plants, which didn't appear until then. There were no flowers on this planet until about 135 million years ago, which is cool. 2, their teeth. They have more teeth than any other dinosaurs, right? Like literally 1,000 plus in their mouth at the same time. Not in rows like a shark, but in like weird batteries. Like imagine like a row of teeth and then another row of teeth and then another one in front of that, like chainmail, all of which were like connected by these ligaments. So they had a little bit of mobility to be able to chew all this stuff. 3, they were fucking huge, like larger than T-Rexes, some of the bigger ones. At least on average. So like they're like, portrayed as these like sort of wimpy, we don't do anything, we make a bunch of noises. The head crests themselves are cool. They were probably making really cool sounds and vocalizations to each other at various times during their days. But like, yeah, they were sick, so underrated. Not just prey animals to be victimized by the T-Rex in the movies. Like, they had their own cool stuff going on.
My favorite part of that was the nightmare fuel that is ridges of fully flexible teeth.
Crazy.
Like that's just pure nightmare fuel.
The teeth are wild. Yeah, like Google like hadrosaur tooth battery, and you'll see the fossils that come up. You're like, that's weird. They look weird.
Also, tooth battery sounds like you hook teeth up to a generator. Or something. That's what that sounds like to me. I won't lie.
Yeah.
I did like that though. That was great.
Hogs of War, I guess, is late to the show. And they're like, "What's going on? I'm late to the show. We're talking about dinosaurs. Hogs, we're doing the questions. We're doing the questions, and usually at any given show, only half the questions even have anything to do with 40K. We just answer them anyhow. What was that? What is the American review of Otakos? Francois, Nathan, did you guys do Otakos?
I did not go to Otakos. I'm sorry.
I saw receipts for it, and we saw Otakos, and I was like, I'm not having a taco outside of North America.
Belgian Taco Bell.
Like,
The equivalent.
this is not a thing that I want to do. I don't want to have Mexican food of any stripe or variety outside of North America and maybe South America.
I'm going to stop
Come
you
on,
there.
guys.
There was nothing except for the tortilla.
Mexican.
There was nothing Mexican about that place at all. One,
It's an American wrap.
no, like no, I've never seen anyone do what they did with a like tortilla. Like, I'm just watching this girl just wrap this tortilla, and I'm just getting like more and more distressed as I'm like, no, not the full. You didn't do the no.
no.
Like,
What was the
and
final
then she
shape?
started putting fries in it. I'm like, no, baby, what is you doing? Stop.
You only have yourself to blame for going to a tacos place in Belgium.
Yeah, that's really
again,
nobody to blame but yourself.
No, it was good. It actually was pretty good. It was if you wanted like fast food / comfort food, it was pretty good. I would not call it tacos. I would call it like, maybe they should change their name to like O Tortillas or something like that, because the word taco being used very liberally in there. They were doing stuff with tortillas. They weren't making tacos with it, that's for sure. But there was like meat products and tortillas happening, and cheese, maybe, and then like sauce. But like when I went to, they have so many sauces, and I don't know like any of the names mean. I just see colors. I'm like, green, tan, mauve. I don't know. Like, I just don't know like what any of the words. Yeah, I don't know what any of the words mean. And they had the sauce, and I'm just like, what's happening? I mean, it was if you have enough Belgian beers, anything was good. But it was something. I do like how they had when you went in there, they had the touchscreen kiosks, like kind of, you ever go like a McDonald's or something, they had the touchscreen or whatever. And this is where those receipts come from. They were circling around with like the 18 different types of cheeses. It doesn't give you error messages when you try to like commit like a food war crime. It just like lets you dig as deep of a hole as you want to.
Just keep
It's
adding.
you just keep adding, and you're just like, if you just like take your hand. If you just take your hand and you just swipe it down the entire screen, it just selects everything. And it doesn't stop you. It's like, sure, $12.99. It does not try to stop you at all. So I kind of like that.
No judgment from the machine, only from your friends later.
No judgment.
Machine can't give you a disapproving look.
Some judgment from the person putting the 16-item taco together.
Yeah, again, like it was very much not a taco. It was like, what's the word? It was kind of like, it was like a sad crunch wrap.
That's
I
not
guess like that.
I mean, sad crunch wraps are already sad crunch wraps. Let's not.
But it was like bigger and more boxy. I don't know. It was a mess. It was a fun mess. It was fun. Wouldn't do it again, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Okay.
Let's see. This question from John V8 would you rather have to say "so true, bestie" to any statement you agree with, even mildly, or every time you have a room say, "Hey guys, it's blank name and I'm out of here, keep the magic alive"? I kind of like the second one, like having
the
a
second one sounds
every
cool.
time every time you disappear, like you have a catchphrase. Like that sounds good to me.
I mean,
That's
keep
a
the
lot,
magic
though.
alive.
Every
Sounds
time
good.
you leave a room, that's a lot.
I
I'm
leave
gonna
a
go
lot.
so true bestie.
You walk through your house and you have to say it 4 times.
It would be awkward to say that like at a scientific conference where somebody's like, yeah, so we have this blankety blankety blank theory. And I'm like, so true, bestie. So true.
Yeah.
So true, bestie.
There's like tonality there that you can add to it. That I feel like you can get away with it at a certain point. But
Yeah,
You would be known as that
inflection does a lot here.
scientist at a certain point.
so true bestie. So true bestie.
Just with speech rate and inflection, like you could really, you'd be like, because it's like now you're like doing like the I am Groot thing, you know, where it's like you just have a whole language.
I guess I'd do that then too. That's fair.
Why does Discord do this? Just jumped all over the place randomly. Is there any gaming item out of the ordinary that you take with you to a 2-day major? Why specifically a 2-day major, Jake B? Something beyond dice, tape measure, etc. It's like, well, you can only take this to a 2-day major. If you take it to a 3-day major, no good. But no, seriously, what I was actually enjoying with the War Dogs, especially with WTC terrain, I was running Shalaxi and 10 War Dogs, so I had a ton of 100mm bases. Is just to shut down arguments and show like good faith or whatever, just show my work. Is I had 2 MDF 100mm bases, and anytime I had to navigate around terrain, I would put one base right where the turn is, and then I would put another base where my movement was going to end. And I would like literally show my work from not from the front or the back of the base, but from the side of the base, because that's the part that has to go around corners. And so I'd basically show the movement. I'd be like, okay, well, here's the measurement from where the model is to here, and then it turns because the 100mm don't pivot, and then it moves over here, you know, like, because sometimes when you move around, people are like, and I'm like, well, look, here's my work, you know, I haven't touched the model, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, that looks good. And then you only have to do it a couple times. People will be like, okay, this guy is like playing it correctly. And also like just show, sometimes like when you have that thing where like you're trying to like do a charge, but you have to like you don't just have to make a certain charge to like get in melee. You have to make a certain charge to clear terrain or something like that, especially with Chaos Knights where they can go through walls. And you know what you're trying to do, but the other person's like trying to like jump in there and help you before any models move. And it's kind of like, you know, being able to just kind of put that MDF base like in there without disturbing anything and be like, okay, well, this is where it would physically have to land, blah, blah, blah. And then you could just pull the terrain up and then measure. It's very nice. It felt very like TTS like, you know, because you show your work.
Especially with how many night players like to just bend their tapes around corners, which drives me nuts. That I appreciate opponents who do what Tim does and bring like proxy bases. That helps a lot. For me,
it's very fast.
Yeah, no, it actually helps you as well, not just your opponent. For me, the glib answer is Advil. Bring
That's
Advil.
what I was going to say. Yeah,
but the real answer is the one weird quote unquote thing that I bring to events is I have a climber's chalk bag. You know, when you do rock climbing or wall climbing, you can clip a bag to your belt for chalk with like a carabiner. I use that as a dice bag because I tend to walk around the table a lot and always leave my dice at the exact opposite end of the table. So I just carry my dice in that pouch.
Yeah. I have a fanny pack and I love it.
I did love seeing Strong Dad Energy, Tim Penny with his fanny pack and like t-shirt on one of the days of Warmasters. It made me very happy. I was going to say, the Norwegian team turned me on to 2 things that are like really good ideas for like long events. A yoga mat for you to stand on, especially if the event is like on hard concrete or something like that. Like that saved my feet so much when I just stood on it. And the other thing that they had were these like little hydration tablets that you put in your water, which were also very convenient because you just pop it in your water. You drink it in like round 2 or whatever, round 3, and you feel so much better when you're drinking it and immediately afterwards. So like an electrolyte tablet and like a yoga mat are like the things that I think I'll be bringing.
Turning your water bottle into a Gatorade is great.
Yep.
I'm going to steal that. I like that idea. I'm going to steal that. From Mag, do you ever find reality creeps up on you when you're not expecting it?
Yes. like
Yeah,
all the time. That's like
Sure.
the daily. That's my daily existence of existential
Is there more
dread.
context to that question?
Oh, I think I don't know if that was a show question or if that was like a cover answer to my question, because today, like, all of a sudden I was just chilling. I was like lying on my couch or something like that, whatever. And then it was the afternoon, and I was scrolling through the Stat Check Discord, and I was like, man, these look like questions that like someone would ask like on my show. And I was like, oh shit, it is my show. And I was like, oh crap, I have a show. So maybe that's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
From Frank, with the recent announcement of the ATC circuit, can we formally declare the X1 Bandits as an independent team from Stat Check? Sure, go nuts. The more people that show up and do teams, the better. I haven't looked into. I'm not on social media, so I saw some people buzzing about the ATC circuit. I know if people are expecting ATC to be exactly the same as WTC, it is not. It's not even close. But the more we can get people exposed to just teams in general, the better. I'm with Anthony. I'm totally team build at this point. Blah, blah, blah. From Ela Woozle, also known as Will, do you think team events lower the barrier to entry for competitive play with regards to Dad Hammer, as you don't necessarily need a cutting edge medalist?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I think so. It depends, right? So we do lots of team events over here, and one of the most popular event in Ottawa all year is the Canhammer Team Tournament, and there's of course the people who go to try and win it, but that's a minority of teams, and I find that there's a ton of players who that's their one event they do every year. They have their buddies, their garage hammer, beer hammer friends, and they do one event a year, and they just like get their team together for Canhammer Team Tournament. They just go to that. That's the one thing they do every year. And the team feeling and I just played this list and it might not be good in singles, but in teams we can sort of make it work. It helps a lot. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think you're going to see, I think we're starting to see the dam kind of start to break as far as like, teams kind of spilling over with decreased exposure to WTC and with cross-pollination of American and European Warhammer players and, Discord servers and stuff like that. And now a recent announcement of ATC circuit. It kind of helps too that like, people talk about the singles meta right now not being super hot. So maybe that accelerated a tiny bit.
And also,
but I think it was something that's a long time coming.
Also depends on whether you have a team event available. Like where I live, team events, that Canhammer Team Tournament's been going on for a decade, right? So it's got like a long history. It's established. People just go to that. But if you don't have a team event, put one together or bug your TO to like try to do one because they're great.
That's what I'm doing. I've already actually had a meeting earlier today with our local FLGS owner that puts on the biggest RTTs here about doing a 3-man teams event later this fall or winter, because then you basically get a taste of the pairings process where both teams put forward a defender. At that point, really the only thing to do is the defender would then choose who they play against, and then the two refused armies place each other. Just real small, real simple, very rudimentary, but just kind of people like, because a lot of people that aren't used to teams, they hear 3-man teams, they're like, what is it, a 6,000 point game that's being played simultaneously? Like that sounds like a pain in the ass. I'm like, no, it's 3 games played in parallel. This one I think is for you, Francois, from Preston. He asks, have you become a notable player yet?
No, I don't think that's ever possible.
Infamous, really. Infamous.
Infamous. Yeah.
Infamous.
For anyone who has no idea what that was all about, that was a callback to, I think it was a Canadian GT or major that Francois was playing in, and I think you were in you were in winning position or something like that, and then someone made like some offhand comment about how there was no notable players there. And
yeah,
I don't think they meant it, but it was
Jeremy.
And it was Jeremy. Yeah.
Jeremy.
So it was big like Et tu Brute kind of energy from it.
Yep. No one notable was there.
It's like, damn, Jeremy.
Right here.
I hope you guys didn't drive together. It's like, damn.
Actually, that one was like right next to my house.
Here in my own house, you do this
Yeah.
to me?
On the day of my daughter's wedding.
On the day of
What
my
is your
40K major victory.
What's your favorite list archetype you've seen develop now that WTC has done and most of us settled down a bit? I wouldn't say favorite. I don't really have like a favorite, I guess, but the biggest one that surprised me and surprised a lot of people is that MSU Thousand Suns list that Vic and others are running that has like it drops the Terminators and takes Magnus, it takes the Source Terminators, has Rhinos, and it's just a ton of MSU rubrics. I think it has a bunch of Infernal Masters too.
Yeah.
And it is just like endless MSU. It's got endless range because you can disbark with the Rhino. I think you can move like 3 times or something like that. And then you can call down the indirect and or line of sight from Magnus like through your characters. And the disc sorcerers are infantry, so they can actually like embark on the Rhino. So they move like a flyer, but they're infantry. So they disembark, move again in your shooting phase. You can move in the shooting phase to avoid Overwatch. They slow you down. It just has all the Cabal points. That list just has the craziest skill ceiling I've ever seen. The first time I was sitting there spectating a game, and the guy did double Doom Bolt into triple grenade strat because the sorcerers have the grenade keyword. And he did like something like crazy, like 23 mortals or something like that. And he's like, yeah, that was about average, on a little bit, maybe on the low end. And I was like, okay, this was a blind spot for us. This is something we didn't see coming. It was just absolutely crazy. So out of WTC, I think you're going to see that list kind of come out, and I think most people kind of have Thousand Suns as kind of like at the top of like the second tier in their power rankings, whatever. I think Thousand Suns with that list, assuming the pilot can play it to the max of its capacity, I think they've jumped up an entire tier. I think they're probably like neck and neck. I think they're above Imperial Knights. I think they're neck and neck with Custodes, maybe a little bit above them, because that list actually does extremely well in Custodes. It's right there, but it might even be right next to GSC. So that's mine.
Mine is the Polish Land Raider Redeemer, because I wish I had been playing that. So we weren't the only ones to bring Deathwatch. In fact, most teams brought Deathwatch. In hindsight, the polls were right. Deathwatch was not the right choice. And
I was impressed by Deathwatch at the event.
So in testing, we thought it was doing well. I played like 40 games of Deathwatch. I was happy with Deathwatch. And then we started pairing it, and it did not go well, which explains why I ended up into Eldar 3 times. But that Land Raider Redeemer, so just hold on for a sec. I'm going to reach over here and look what's on my table.
Yes.
My son. So I'm this summer. My
why do you have that in your cottage?
So my son's summer job this year is I pay him to assemble my models for my pile of shame, and so to the cottage we bring all the models that I want him to assemble for the week. And
okay,
at the top of the list was this Land Raider Redeemer that he assembled for me this week. Listen, my 11-year-old son, he wanted to make a little bit of money. He was like, he wants to like have a job. It was like he wanted to mow lawns or whatever. I'm like, you know what we could do? I have all these boxes of models that I do not like assembling models. I love painting models. I don't like assembling models. So I'm like, here's a hobby knife and a pot of glue. Let's see what you can do. And he has now assembled most of my pile of shame. Actually, he might somehow manage to work through all of it. But anyway, in the last 2 days, my son assembled this Land Raider Redeemer. I can't wait to put it on the table.
I like it. I just want to run Gaunt's Ghost and Artillery now.
That's another good one.
I won't lie. I just want to run Gaunt's Ghost and Artillery and like bamboozle people with nonsense, because that list is like maybe a couple changes away from being like a really good singles list. Like as is, it's a very good team first list. It feels like if you added in like a Calidus Assassin and got the double Vect, it would go from being a good teams list to being like a really good singles list as well.
Yeah, like the double Vect is super rude. Can you Vect a strat twice?
Yeah, you can Vect it.
Two separately named.
Make reanimation
Yeah.
cost 3 CP,
Yeah.
Phantasm is 3 CP.
Yeah.
which they'll still do because they get 3 battle round.
They will still do it, but
Francois, did the Caldus make it into your death watch list for WTC?
No, because I didn't have Agents of the Imperium. That was Chris,
Oh,
our
right.
Custodes players got
Obviously,
that.
also.
But for singles, I would, yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking about running that for singles in September, just because Gaunt's Ghost seems just hilarious. I won't
Cool
lie.
models.
There's something about teleporting units on very
Yeah.
small bases, just doing shenanigans.
that
I
unit
enjoy.
unit has like almost every single rule, like keyword / special rule / USR in the game on that data sheet. They weren't even on my radar, and then I went to WTC, and it was like it felt like out of the top teams, it felt like 3/4 of them had them. It was kind of wild. Next question. Follow up. Will we see TTS teams leagues as a stopgap until the US figures out teams are fun?
They already exist.
Yeah, I think they exist.
Like the
already.
Europeans have been running TTS teams leagues for like forever. The United States runs like a couple, I think. Definitely TTS can act as a stopgap until people kind of get on board, right? But I don't know if we can maybe. The United States is huge. In like very disparate communities, barely stapled together, much like its political system. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll see. With the HC circuit, I mean, we could definitely see like it kind of be like one feeds the other. If the HC circuit like kind of picks up, maybe that becomes something like a little bit more refined. Maybe we see more TTS events come up because of that. Who knows? So the next question. Where were we? From Gabe C. What are your thoughts on anti-medalist armies with the explanation? Explain the current meta with lists who have very situational win conditions. One of the early 10th examples come to mind was the Marine Hammerfall bunker build. 40k in general seems to be quite a bit less inclined to run cheese lists at the top table, at least from my limited experience. So there's 2 types or 3 types. And this is coming from other games. You have meta, you have counter meta, and then you have off meta. Off meta, oftentimes is usually kind of like bad mouthed as being bad, because a lot of times off meta is bad. It's just someone who's just not following the meta. Meta generally just means popular. It's the best way to think about it. Like meta synonym popular. So someone is running something that's not popular. They could be doing it for a reason known only to them. They actually have a plan, or they could just be like a hobby thing, or it could just be like, I'm not on social media. I don't listen to any content. I don't listen to podcasts. I just like this. I played okay. I'm just living my own truth. Or sometimes like someone that, and a lot of times like that stuff is just not good. The meta is the meta for a reason. People have generally figured out like what's good. But sometimes you occasionally have someone who's like looked at rules and he said, well, this isn't popular, but these rules are decent. I can play it well. And they have success because they have something that that is off meta enough that people are prepared for. And like they have to do the thing like, can you explain your army to me? Because I actually haven't seen this army before. And people aren't planning for it. So by the time they played it once in a tournament, and now they know how it plays. They're like, okay, well, in hindsight, I would have done this differently. I would have done this differently. And now I understand what that list does. It's too late because they're not going to see that list again because there's only one weirdo running that. A good example of that would be back in like 8th edition, going into 8th edition, like Psychic Awakening into like early 9th edition. One of our locals, Mark Parker, was running like 3 Gargantuan Squigos, like a character, like 30 Grots, and like 15 Smashing Guns. That was the list. And he just lined up all the Smashing Guns in the back. He had like a War Boss, like kind of like tending them, and the Squigos with Gargantuan Squigos with the Grots would just like run towards you. And it was like, it felt like you were facing like a 4,000 point list because it was just so much shooting and melee and wounds, and it just really, really, really pressured you. Counter meta would be like, okay, well, everyone is building in tanks are the meta, vehicles are the meta, everyone's bringing anti-tank. I'm just going to take no tanks at all. I'm just going to take a horde of infantry. And so when they pair into me, they're going to have all this high strength stuff. I don't care about your AP because I don't have a save. I don't care about your strength because I'm toughness 3 or whatever. I don't care about your damage because I'm 1 wood model. You don't have enough shots, and I'm just all over the place. So stuff like Keeper Rush, the 300 Grot list, Sisters before the Dark Elder Codex released, there was like a lot of like kind of like counter meta kind of stuff. I think it's good, but I think those types of lists require they require you to like kind of be good at list building. They really require you to be good at meta analysis, and then also to have access to a lot of like units or models, whether that's either your own collection or like borrowing from someone else, because you need to pivot and kind of do weird stuff quickly. What do you guys think?
I don't think that Hammerfall bunker list was ever good. It was just a Reddit meme, guys.
Yeah.
Let's not get too excited about the guy who took it into like a weirdly not meta Imperial Guard list and somehow managed to anti-tank it with the Hammerfall bunker. But I think, Tim, you put together the best summary of it. Like, you can win with off meta or counter meta lists. It just depends on how flexible your counter meta list is, right? Can your counter meta list not just beat the top, but can it be like maybe 1 or 2 other armies that are going to be there? Because if it can't do that, you're just going to lose. I don't know. You kind of got to.
I missed the first half of that because my daughter fell out of bed, so I have nothing to say.
Yeah, I basically broke down the triangle of meta, off meta, and then counter meta. Where off meta is just being different, and that's like its strength. But the trick to off meta is it still has to be a good list. Like if you just do something off meta but it's bad, it's just bad. But if you do something off meta and it's good, then it's good because people aren't prepared for it. Whereas counter meta is like you are off meta, but you're also praying specifically against against stuff that's meta. And it's kind of funny because weirdly enough, a lot of times when a good off meta list runs into a good counter meta list, weirdly enough, the off meta list will actually beat the counter meta list because it's like, oh, I didn't prepare for this, you know. So
counter meta list,
it's a funny dichotomy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Off meta lists are usually still balanced lists at their face, right?
Yeah, it's usually someone like
they're just weirder and different.
They're just weird, different. It's someone living their own truth, or it's just kind of like it might just be someone who's just running something that's like good, or it just wasn't quite good enough to be the thing that everyone's like hyping up and taking, or like, you know, the nucleus of players who are traveling to events and like hopping armies to go win events, like they're taking like these like 4 or 5 factions to win events. And then you have a guy who doesn't want to do that, and he's a good player, but he takes something like it's like just down here. It's like almost makes it, and then he just plays it better than other people, or knows it inside and out. So it's possible. Maybe not in the current meta, but I've seen it before in other metas.
Yeah.
Tim and Francois, what were your hardest games from WTC Warmasters, and what did you learn from them? I'll go first. It wasn't my most difficult opponent, but I would say my hardest game was probably when we played the Ritual, and I played the Ritual into Custodes. That was rough because it was just literally that's the one where you just have to like chain objectives from the center. And I was basically desperately trying to do actions with War Dogs and chain objectives out and split his army before my opponent realized what was up, because he was just kind of like being timid and, you know, being shy with his Custodes. And then once he realized that like I couldn't actually like really hurt him, he just formed up into a golden armadillo and just rolled towards me like a bowling ball. And I shot everything at him, and I bounced and I died. So that was kind of hard.
Yeah. I'm going to do the thing where I co-opt a question to tell a story I want to tell, even though it doesn't really answer the question. But my most difficult games were obviously the 3 Eldar games that I played during the teams event. And but in a way, what I learned from those games was how liberating it is to play a game where you know you're going to lose big. So your mission is to try and score any points for your team. And my favorite game of all the WTC actually was my German Eldar matchup, because we paired that one into a loss. And Jeremy comes up to me and he says, listen, we've paired this into a loss. Our matrix says we're going to lose. So, like, do what you can, but we need points. And I'm playing Death Watch into Eldar. So on my matrix, it's deep red. Right? I'm like, well, my expected points is 2, maybe. But here's what I can do for you, Jeremy, if you give me permission to do it. I ask permission because what I'm about to do is insane. What I can do is I can fix my secondaries, bring it down, assassinate, deploy on the line, roll to go first. And it's not how I usually play because I'm normally a very conservative player. And it's not how you should play unless you have a good reason. The good reason here was, well, we're going to lose this round unless at least a couple of games flip. So let's give ourselves the chance to flip this game. And the game starts, and I tell my opponent, I'm going to take fixed. I'm going to take bring it down and assassinate. And he looks at me and goes, no one has ever taken that against me. And we deploy. And he goes, if I go first, I'm going to be able to shoot your army. I look at him and I say, I know. I was playing with house money that entire round. It was great. And it starts beautifully, right? So I set up this like kind of pincer move where he can only phantasm either Prism or his avatar. He, in my opinion, does the wrong thing, gets the Prism out of the way because I really wanted to kill the avatar because I wanted to like shove my army down his throat. So I was like, the avatar is going to be a problem. I need it dead. I kill the avatar turn 1. His coaches start walking by more and more frequently, like very confused. And his turn 1 shooting goes very poorly. He kills 6 Stern Guard, and that's it. So at that point, I'm like, oh my God, I might actually flip this game. Now, spoiler alert, I did not flip the game. His turn 2 shooting phase was amazing. Just as bad as his turn 1 shooting phase was, his turn 2 shooting phase was like even better. And but it's funny because we had like 3 German coaches around the game the entire time because they were very worried that I was about to take this Eldar game and turn it into a win for us. I run out of steam because it's still Eldar, and I go, all right, it's time now. I'm going to Gambit. First time in 50 games of 10th edition that I Gambit. I had never done it before. I had to actually look up the rules to make sure I was doing it properly. And I Gambit. And I pulled a one where it's orbital bombardment. So if I just roll the high roll, I get 30 points. And he's like sweating bullets. And the coaches are like all around the table. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting back on my chair, just like this, kind of hands behind my head, thinking, I can't lose. This is win-win. I'm playing with house money. And sadly, I didn't quite get there. I scored a 3 in that game, but for a glorious couple of turns, it looked like I was actually going to flip the Eldar game. And it taught me a couple of things. It taught me that if you're going to lose anyway, might as well do the stupid thing and go for it. Because even if you have a 1 in 20 chance of like getting your Gambit, like going first, getting all the damage you need, they get unlucky, then you get your Gambit. Sometimes it's worth trying. And it didn't work, although I got a 3, which is kind of what I predicted anyway, so whatever. It didn't not work. I also didn't get zeroed. But that was a beautiful game. For me, on the other side, poor guy was sweating bullets the entire time.
That's so tough. I love it.
You're on when you're assigned a list that's like designed to 20 people, you're actually under a lot of pressure because it's like if you come back with like a 17, people are like, "What are you doing?"
Fair, yeah, that makes sense.
Look,
actually,
man,
there was zero pressure on me
job.
that round. I'm like, my expectation is to score a 0. So let's see what happens.
I think the part of teams that I find most appealing is like, I would love to be the guy that's like, I'm going to go scrape out 4 points, like 2 to 4 points from this expected 20-0. Like jumping in with some sort of sacrificial list and just trying to make a loss not terrible just seems deeply appealing.
In 3 Eldar games, I scored a 3, a 3, and a 5, and I'm really happy with that.
So cool. I love it.
The next question is for Nathan. Dan F. in all caps adds, which bird won the WTC, Nathan?
It depends on what we're talking about. The obvious answer is the white-tailed eagle won because Poland won. So their national bird gets to win WTC because that's how life works.
Dope bird.
But for all practical purposes, and because I was not on the Australia interview to ask a bird combat related question, it really is the damn, I'm gonna forget the name of the bird now, just after moments of having it, which is fine. But Australia basically has this terrifying damn bird.
Emu?
No, it's not the emu. It's the one that
The
looks like
ossuary?
a dinosaur. Yes.
Cassowaries
There
in
you
South
The
America.
cassowary. The cassowary. Yeah.
Cassowary, that's right.
It's cassowaries.
Oh.
Cassowaries are basically dinosaurs. They're protected and they have velociraptor claws and they will kick the shit out of you, basically, is what they will do. So yeah, cassowaries won, but really the white eagle won because Poland won the WTC.
Dick from Dick the FNG from the X1 or from the Stat Check Discord says, besides Eldar, which is hard broke, and GSC, which might be exposed, which faction or factions did you each walk away with a new respect for or perspective on? Again, Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns.
Definitely Thousand Suns. We kind of answered that. We kind of answered that question a little bit before, but it was like more your favorite archetype. But I think that MSU Thousand Suns list caught a lot of people by surprise. I think that list is going to make some waves in singles over the next couple months. So I would definitely watch the space on that one. From Oliver Johnson, going to an 8-game super major here in Brisbane, Australia, winning some events with GSC, and everyone telling me to continue to play GSC. I've decided to bring Votan. What will be an impressive win-loss ratio for me to strive towards and accomplish at this event? 4-4.
4-4.
Yeah.
If
I
you
mean,
go
like, well,
4-4
is it?
right now, you're killing it.
Is it? I mean, Oliver, I don't know if you're here. Oliver, is it 6 rounds and then a cutaway, or is it like a full 8 rounds for everyone?
I mean,
If
either
it's
way,
fully rounds for
going
everyone, then, like,
even with
4-4.
Votan would be like
Yeah.
Because it feels like Votan kept their points from the last edition, and then like they basically took every single stat that had a number and just subtracted 1. They're like everything's 1 worse, and it just snowballed into trash.
I mean, they're sub 30%, right? So anything above that is good, and like 50 would be my goal if I was doing it.
Brutal.
Yeah, so assuming it's like 6 rounds with like a cut with the top cut, that'd be a 6-round event. If they have a 30% win rate, and if you go 3 wins, that's better than average. Really, you're expected to go 2. Not sure. What is Votan beating?
I think anything over, they don't beat anything. That's not. This is not a thing that we need.
Yeah. It's really sad.
They probably
All right,
beat Guard or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, well, yeah, because they have that really short like rail rifle, and they're just like as Death Guard are moving 4 inches, they're just like backing up and shooting with like their 18-inch rail rifle.
They move 5 inches back. Death Guard move 4 inches forward. They always have that 1 extra inch. That's
Yeah, they're just it's like the world's slowest kiting with the world's shortest range railgun.
Yep.
Oh.
Why?
It's like that meme. It's like that meme with like the Simpsons where they're watching the 2 monkeys fight, with the knives, but like
just circling each other.
Yeah, but they don't even have knives. It's like wooden spoons, like the little spoons they give, the crappy spoons for like the little ice cream they give you, like those.
A spork.
I was gonna say a pool noodle, but I like spoon
right.
better.
Well, a pool noodle has reach, and Votan do not. So. Final question, then we can all go to sleep. Has Cliff gone all in on the new Seraphon yet?
Oh, yeah. I got 2 of the new boxes. I got 2 of the new patrols. I've got like 2 Stegodons, Slime Mage Priests, 30 Saurus Warriors assembled. I'm working on the Raptors now, the Raptidons. And yeah, like that, the model range is phenomenal. Everyone should buy them and play them.
Considering it strongly.
My wife really likes the Seraphons, so especially the skinks. So that's been my excuse because she just likes them. She talks about painting them, but she never will. But she likes it when I paint them for her, and she'll occasionally paint like 1 or 2. but it's kind of nice because we actually get to play small games like 1,000-point games of Sigmar, and I get to bring all the Skaven units that like aren't that I like but aren't good. Because if I go to Skaven like RTT, if I go to Sigmar like RTT or GT, I'll just bring like Storm Fiends and Screens, the list. I don't actually like Storm Fiends. I like stuff like the Death Masters and the Assassins and like just like the Storm Vermin, like kind of stuff. Like all the stuff is just like the Doom Wheels, like all that crap. So when she brings her pure skinks or whatever, I can run like my Doom Wheels or whatever. We just have like fun little games on our. We play like maybe like 2 games a year or something like that, but it is fun.
I love it.
Yep. All right, gents. Let me just scroll through. I think that is all. That's actually all the questions. Gents, so much for joining us. I know it's a little late, especially for you, Francois, in the cabin. Love the panel wood, by the way.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, really appreciate you guys joining us. It was awesome to see you guys at WTC. Anything you guys want to add before we close out? Francois, let's go with you.
Go to Warmasters if you can.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely agree. Nathan?
I think the biggest takeaway is just that sportsmanship was so paramount at the event. A lot of people think of like probably 40K Olympics as like the sweatiest of gaming situations, but really it's like, well, it is the sweatiest of gaming
literally,
but only because it's hot. It honestly, the sportsmanship and camaraderie at WTC and at Warmasters was amazing to behold. So even if you just want to go experience an event with amazing sportsmanship where you and your opponent will either share a beer or share a jersey, maybe trade a jersey, not share a jersey. You know what? Whatever you guys want to do, whatever will make you happy. Go to Warmasters, have fun, make a trip out of it. You'll have a good time no matter what, basically.
I agree. Definitely, again, you don't have to be a part of your team, your nation's official team. But if you want to do that, like it's also a good way to get some visibility. But if you make a trip out of it and you go out there solo, go see Belgium is a beautiful country. It's close to Amsterdam, Luxembourg, and other countries. And the Warmasters is great. Even though it was high caliber skill, it felt very low pressure, and the terrain was incredible. The judging was incredible. The venue,
the beer was cheap.
Was incredible. The beer was cheap and also incredible. If it's not on your bucket list, you should probably consider it if you have the means and the time to go do it. Clip, man, anything you want to add? I know you kind of been like a passenger with us on this ride, but maybe one day we'll see you out there too.
Yeah, I mean, one day I love traveling. I love Belgium. I could go get my ass kicked by the best players in the world for 6 rounds straight. That'd be cool. Main takeaway for me is that, which I know already because I'm familiar with all you guys and a bunch of you guys at LVO, is that sweaty players are often the coolest. And it's okay to be really competitive about this game that we all love and have deep passion for, but that doesn't mean that you have to be like a bad person about it or a jerk at the table. Often the most competitive people have been the coolest dudes at the table too. So if you're considering jumping into the comp scene, take it from all of these folks who have been to the absolute mountaintop of the competitive 40K universe and come back raving about the people, their experience, and how good a time they had. Jump in. It's fun. Just don't play Eldar or GSC. Don't do that.
You should do it anyways. Play what you love.
Yeah. All right, gents. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us, X1. We love having you guys here. I think all of us have some events coming up soon. I know, Francois, you're talking about it. I think all of us have events coming up soon. So everyone, good luck on that. And then everyone else, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.